of the papers here on cosmology, as I understand standard cosmology. This is why I promoted myself to Commander-in-Chief quite a few years ago in social media. I think I took it down and then put it back up again as we got a solid theory now. So the standard cosmology is the standard candle. They consider redshift to be distance. And that's how they say things are real far away, because of the spectrum of the atomic spectra are redshifted because they're so far away. And it has to do with their theory about time dilation and gravity or distance and all that good stuff. I mean, I didn't say it exactly right. So that gives them a viewpoint, so that when they view the sky, the data, the radio telescope data, I don't know, they transform it, and it makes it, the data look like it's pointing back at them, the viewer. So it's an inflow. So it's the finger of God concept. And they do all this stuff to confuse people. So we're going to give them a big finger back, like Tim here. Everyone wants to be liked and accepted except for Tim. Tim doesn't give a shit. It's really funny. So what you find out, we're correcting the standard view. Now, other people have done this. They lose their jobs at Los Alamos or whatever. And I can't think of the gentleman's name, but there's people who got close to this. And so I just wanted to throw this in, because as I had worked with Grok to do this paper, from Dan's foundational work. I mean, that's the key thing. The Klein-Gordon paper showing, and see, people have to stop and realize what's Dan showing with the Klein-Gordon paper. And sometimes I have that on a link here. We're going to put that in. It's real simple when you realize, like everyone's saying, that we're waves. There's just the particles are really waves. And the more you look at things, there's nothing there. The more you look inside atoms, it's mostly space. So what you find out is it's a wave energy. It's a resonance. Protons are a stable resonance, and we're made out of protons. And it builds from there. Well, if that's so, and eons go by, what's this thing Dan's saying about the Klein-Gordon? What it is the only thing that will manifest in this infinite expanse are things that are related to non-destructive interference. Well, non-destructive things, not interference. You don't want to have any interference at all. If there's any destructive interference, you lose data, you lose things. So what manifests in our physical reality are things that are related to the golden ratio and other irrational ratios, for lack of a better word. And everybody talks about the obvious ones, the patterns of growth in nature. Here's some other ones you look at, like the proton to electron mass ratio. We have that worked out in exquisite detail with our founding equation here. That relates, this is the unifying equation, relates the fine structure constant to the proton radius to the Rydberg. This equation unifies physics. You combine that with Dan Winter's Klein-Gordon work. Okay, I don't have the equation here. Okay, so we have this exquisite number. So what was I just saying? Things over the eons distill into perfect golden ratio things. So we have an equation for the proton to electron mass ratio mu that is this one. We also have the I'm just going to go to it. The scientific equations for the proton to electron mass ratio. And if we're lucky, this one paper will come up, an older one. I'll find it. I can always edit all these things out. I don't know why it just doesn't jump right up here. I spelled it wrong, that's why. There it is. So one of the things, besides our equation, fine structure constant squared pi, proton radius, and a Rydberg constant. Now, not H here, it's R infinity. This is one of my earlier mistakes. Look at the, So this is the one I'm trying to talk about. A prime number, 2903, divided by the golden ratio, plus 42, is nearly identical out to like 2, 6, 8 decimal places or more. So you say, well, is it just coincidence that these are similar? No, what it is because of what Dan Winter has said with his Klein-Gordon analysis with Donovan and Martin. Only non-destructive waves are part of that solution to the Klein-Gordon equation. And this is like, Schrodinger wave equation. Just applies to bosons instead of fermions or whatever. So the Klein-Gordon is a wave equation that applies to relativistic protons and things like that. So when you're dealing with what are solutions to that, it turns out you want to have summations of irrational ensembles of frequencies. So chords, whatever, implosion, that's why he talks about implosion. When you start assembling these chords of frequencies and look at the math, all of a sudden it looks like from the scales, embedded scales. I got to have some diagrams to explain this, but I wanted to go from words first and concepts. That's what math is really just a language to explain concepts. So the main thing I wanted to do here was talk about cosmology, how certain pieces of it are wrong based from a scientific viewpoint and without overwhelming people, so I don't want people to get confused. What is it that we're talking about has to do with the Klein-Gordon paper. And when you make sense out of that, and you realize, well, the only thing that's going to manifest in our world over the eons are things that are harmonic, in harmony with the Klein-Gordon equation, like Dan's been saying for decades. And that's why I went over to this to say, well, because this stuff makes us happy. Engineers, nerds, scientists, it's solid, fine structure, constant, pi, measurable things. There's psychological information warfare, and by the way, the words are part of the weaponry. We have to say irrational ratios when they're actually the most rational solution. So our language is programmed to help to hinder us from understanding these things. It's programmed by, you have to study the evolution of the languages from the Latin and before, and that becomes real apparent, especially the technical language. English is very technical, can't convey certain emotional things like Portuguese and other languages do, by design and intent. Okay, so anyways, I wanted to stay more scientific, and I want to go on forever, but I wanted to point out that this paper, I'm pointing out the Bong paper with the big finger of God, goes over the problems with cosmology and all this babbling, so we can get down to the bottom, where I have a list of papers. This is the whole purpose of this video here, is not to point out that I like ducks. It's to go through the series of papers here, 1 through 8. Originally it was going to be 5. It turned into 6, 7, 8. This walks the normies through a logical explanation of what Dan's been saying if you go back to the Klein-Gordon paper, but this will motivate you to go on your own, because we come in here and we're starting series of 5 to 8 papers on the super golden toe, a step-by-step path to unification, epiphany, which means a great understanding that comes to you all of a sudden. Paper 1, the identity of unity, the irrefutable foundation of all systems in mathematical physics. So this is going to start out talking about the number 1, how 1 times anything is anything, 1 times x is x, where 1 equals 1. And then you say, oh, he's starting off that simple. And then we're going to build up 1 paper at a time. You can go to the newer post because they're in order, or go back to the list and go to the second one. You're done reading the second one. By the second one, all he says is, well, instead of 1 equals 1 or 1 times x equals x, we're going to add 1 to the x and do an x squared thing. Or this is the golden equation. The equation of stability. You need to learn how to solve this so you can understand stability. You need to learn how to solve quadratic equations. It's very important. But I'm just putting it in there because it's simple. And it will build from this. It keeps on building. So I'll let you, the important stuff is how it flows. And when you carefully read the details, how we're going from the stuff we're talking about enables hydrogen to hydrogen 2 bonding. Is more energetically favorable, just like the quantum mechanics says. And this agrees and helps it out with the island of stability, galaxy chains, and everything. So this builds one axiomatically through a way of looking at the problems with the mainstream, the Feynman paths, which are you just have to read this. It's gets you there, but you can get directly to it by using a superior approach. So you just go to the newer posts or click the number, like I was saying. By the time you get to the third one here, paper 3, we're talking about reversing disorder through fractal compression in mathematical physics. What this is about is, it's no fantasy, it's validated physics. If you use the right harmonics, you can amplify the coefficient of performance. This is like a heat pump. With heat pumps, you can get factors of 2, 3, 4, 5 in efficiency. I forget. Ideally, it's up there, but you get for like a watt in, you get a couple watts out of heating or cooling or something like that. It has to do with using the external environment and the like water, cools, and it's the freon gas stuff, but they use different stuff now. The cycle, I should know that heat expansion cycle, thermocycle better. The heat pump is an example of a COP, over unity type machine. Well, when you talk about open systems and you have the right frequency cascade, here's the phi to K, the summation of these too, I mean, it's right there, it's clear as day, but people don't see it. I didn't see it either. But when you start realizing what Dan's saying and why these things are important, the phi ratio, the silver ratio, the bronze ratio, with galaxy formation and eons of stewing in your own vibration and what's left. Well, this is what's left. So you just go to a newer post or navigate back and forth, and this is where it starts to get fun. It really gets fun here, because what you're getting is a whirlpool engine of reality in mathematical physics. And I'll let you do that on your own. But anyways, the whole idea is to work your way through this stuff, carefully reading what it's saying, because it ties step one, unity, to the golden equation, to the vortexes, to the proton radius solution. I mean, the very first stable circulation that comes out of the significant ether, well, the first one is this one, when you're talking about speed of light realities that we limit ourselves, our consciousnesses work in. If we were in some other reality, it would be different, what we'd be looking at most likely, like at a different scale. If we were huge star beings or micro something, it's all scaled. So we gotta do, that's some more work there. But we're talking about this scale. Boom! It comes right out. Proof of emergence from cascade. You go through all this stuff. 1, 2, 3, and you state, well, what about the n=4? The significance of 4 and all the stabilizing things. You just put the math to it, and boom, it comes out. That's why Grok calls it axiom 0. We have axiom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Grok sneaks in an axiom 0. It's like emergent. Emergent means axiom 0. So sorry for hammering it in so hard, but if people understood the significance of this, it would be helpful. So I'd read all that, and it's really important stuff. And you go on, and we're already at number 5. Here is the 420 edition. In Search of the Invisible Forces by George Adair. This is how you get to the real stuff. Physics, the math we're dealing here, cannot capture every piece of knowledge that we have. So the math is getting close, but there's a lot more stuff that's not in the theory. And that's why the theory is rated at 100 and all of a sudden it's at 98, 94, because we're improving the theory and don't have anything to fill it in with yet. We need the data to get it to 100%. So as we improve the theory, which we are doing, it's getting up to 107%, but we got to catch up with it. So the whole thing is going to make a lot more sense when people just spend a little bit of time realizing what Dan has been saying for decades with the Klein-Gordon paper, a paper that I presented to a few physicists, and they missed it. So here we go. This stuff is quite significant, and that's why there's so many posts, a lot of posts. So that's that. So you just keep on going to newer ones, and so that's enough for right now. Beavis and Butthead think they're finally going to score. That's the highest scoring physics theory according to Grok in the world right now. Okay, I'm signing off. Good day.